Welcome to Art's Place, conservative talk from a different view, from the Casablanca studio in Golden, Colorado. Hosted by Art Carlson. At 4'6", liberals fear him, and conservatives love him. He's definitely a giant among men. Now here's your host, Art Carlson.
Welcome to Art's Place, conservative talk from a different view. Today is a special tribute to the passing of the pioneer of conservative talk radio. Yes, I'm talking about Rush Limbaugh, who passed away this morning at the age of 70 from advanced lung cancer. I decided, hey, let's do a tribute to this great American who started all of this. This is why I'm in this. He inspired me to do something like this. I was stand-up comic for 25 years. I've done several radio shows in the past, and then I started this channel on internet radio called Blog Talk Radio back in 2011. Then I took about a 2 or 3 year hiatus, and then I brought it back on YouTube. So let's get this going, and let's bring up my co-host all the way from snowy Muskogee, Oklahoma, Lloyd Mendenhall. Hey, Lloyd.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
Yeah. Especially on such it's a sad occasion. You know,
Yes,
it's a sad occasion. It's, let me turn this up just a little bit. Yeah, it's, you know, we all knew it was coming, those of us that listened to Rush Limbaugh show. But he's had a lot of influence on me even. You know, I remember the first time I was listening to here in Oklahoma, or at least in Green Country area. It's on Tulsa's KRMG radio, 740 and 102.1 radio here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Let's bring in our other guests.
Oh yeah,
Mike
by
Roach,
all means.
all the way from Syracuse, New York. Welcome to the show, Mike. Good to see you.
Hi guys. Good to see you.
Hey, how you doing, Mike?
I'm good. Hanging in there, just dealing with the snow and stuff. But frankly,
yeah,
it's worse where others are than it is here. So
let me start off this by how I got influenced, or how I found Rush Limbaugh. I was working for a document imaging company in Denver, Colorado in 1992, and my boss had Rush Limbaugh playing on in the office. Nowadays, that'd be like a big no-no. But
right.
I thought, oh, well, yeah, I've heard of Rush. I heard he was a racist bigot. You know, I heard all this negative stuff, and I started listening to him. I'm like, I didn't hear anything bigoted or racist. And so I started listening to him off and on for several years up until 9/11. And after that, that's when I started. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. I meant to make it big, but.
All right, there we go.
All right, let me
try making it big. There we go.
How do I do that?
You click on my icon.
There we go. Yeah, so after 9/11, I started listening to to Rush full time at work, because back in the day we were able to listen to the radio at our workstation. So I started listening to Rush and was greatly greatly influenced by him. Really liked what he had to say. At the time, I was pro-choice in the area of abortion, but listening to Rush got me turned around, and I talked to several people. The one thing why the liberals hate him is he was able to persuade people. He was able to talk about what was going on that you didn't hear on TV, in the news, and that scared the hell out of liberals, and that's why they call them all these names. And so that's how I came on to Rush. So Lloyd, you already told us how you started watching, so take it away, Mike.
Okay. Let's see. Well, when he first became syndicated and started spreading around the country, when he came to Syracuse, I believe it was around 91 or so. And I was at the age where I always listened to rock music on FM radio, but I wanted more news. I was growing up, and so I started listening to AM, and all of a sudden, after the noon newscast, he came on, and like Rush would say, there was that getting used to period of the first couple of weeks of, you're not going to like me at first, but then you'll get it and get hooked. And sure enough, I had that experience of like, this guy's a jerk, his attitude, this, that, and the other. But all of a sudden realized like, I really like what he's saying. And then started getting the sarcasm and the bits and things that he was doing back then. And he, if you remember, it was mainly AM radio back in those days that he was on, which was essentially dying, AM radio. And, almost single-handedly revamped AM radio. And,
that's right.
But of course now, so many of the talk shows and stations are both AM and FM, both. But yeah, it's it became a thing, and then I had grown up and I had voted for Reagan, and I voted for George H.W. Bush, and when Clinton won in '92, I was in the hospital, and the next day I had to do an absentee ballot because I was getting surgery, and I knew that Bush had lost, and all of a sudden, I put Rush on that day, and it took me out of my funk because he immediately went into comedy about how the Clinton White House was going to be. And that's my kind of story of being initiated into him, his show. And I was actually on it twice. I call as a caller, which was quite the honor. One time for just a second, one of those going into a commercial, he takes the caller for the last 30 seconds. But another time in 1994, when the Republicans gained control of the House with the contract with America, Newt Gingrich was on Meet the Press with Tim Russert. And I called Rush's show to talk about it a little bit. And I was actually called by Rush, and I'll quote, he said, "You, sir, are a brilliant, shrewd observer." And I was like, oh, I got the Rush seal of approval, for life kind of thing. It was kind of cool. And but it was talking about, not accepting the pretense of a question when it's given to you, saying no, the whole question is invalid. Instead of answering a dumb question, you can't look good answering a bad question. So and Newt did that on Meet the Press. So, but yeah, Rush, big influence for so many to follow for sure. And certainly
I know
entertaining for all of us.
when I listened to him, he really opened my eyes to how the liberal media was manipulating people. I mean, through the TV shows and the news. And he goes, "Have you ever noticed how the news, every network tells the same thing? I mean, if it's on ABC, it's probably going to be on CBS or it's going to be on NBC. And it's going to be the same playbook. It's like they go around and they give everybody this. So this is what we're going to talk about today. This is the script for today." So
Yeah, it really is almost like that. I think it's more of a not so much a conspiracy or anything like that as much as it is like-mindedness and dog whistles and that kind of thing.
Well, yeah, and that's it. It's like I was looking up stuff when I did my podcast. They had a little
Lloyd, your audio is breaking up.
Oops.
Is my audio breaking up again?
Yep.
Whoop.
All right, let me
Mike, how does it sound garbled?
Does my audio sound bad, Mike?
Yeah.
All right, hang on.
Okay. But yeah, Rush, certainly you remember how the left did not know what to do with him. Here was a guy who did not apologize for his opinions, and the free market dictated he didn't need PBS, he didn't need public funding, and the free market paid for it. And there was a hunger out there in the country for somebody to validate our feelings and our opinions. And along he came, and at the right time. And when the Clinton administration hit, I mean, that was the best thing to ever happen to Rush. How you doing, Lloyd?
Well, how's it sounding? Any better?
No.
Still jarble on this end.
Yeah.
All right.
Huh.
Let me try one more thing. I'll be back in a second, guys. Just hang with me.
Yeah.
All right. We'll be here.
A lot of stuff going on with this internet thing. Must be all the Rush Limbaugh memorials going on out there that are causing too much internet traffic, which most of the news channels are doing this evening.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's he changed the whole landscape of things and
Yes, he did.
and paved the way for Hannity. Remember, Hannity would fill in for him a lot, and so many more.
Mark Stein.
Mark Stein. You name it in terms of
Tony Snow.
Who?
Remember Tony Snow?
Tony
at Fox.
Snow.
He passed away
didn't
of
he?
cancer several years ago.
Yeah, Tony Snow and so many others, and there were some conservatives before him in earlier times, but
Yeah,
it was
William
a bit of
F.
a lull.
Buckley.
Oh yeah, William F. Buckley, but he was the liberals conservative, if you remember. He, firing line on PBS and all that.
But he was more like refined, and he was more
Right.
upper crust. He taught with elegance, and
Yeah, you needed a dictionary to watch
Yeah.
Firing Line.
Yeah, it
I
was-
enjoyed it though; it was fun, and but it's probably
All right,
the
let's
most
see
popular
if
show PBS.
Lloyd got all the squirrels out of his
Okay, doke.
audio.
Let's hope I did. Did I?
Oh, much better.
Much better, and
right.
you got a squirrel with you now.
Yeah, that's what the problem was right there.
Too.
No, well, looks like I lost my logos though. At least one of them. I've been doing a lot with this thing today, so Let me just go through and I'll just shut that off. Because nothing's worse than having a. There we go. And let me turn that over there. And there we go. All right. So, yeah, I was doing a lot. I did that podcast today. I should have rebooted before I ever started, and I didn't. I had to actually record my podcast twice because of the fact that, yeah, I had the same garble thing. I did a 20-minute podcast today and put it up there, and it sounded like crap. So.
Are you doing that, Lloyd, as an actual podcast?
Actually, I'm doing both. Well, no, I've now got it on SoundCloud, and if you go to grumpyvlogger.info, you can find the link under podcast there, and you can download it. Yeah.
So
what's really cool is, well, what I'm doing is I'm using StreamYard to do all of it.
Right.
Here's the trick. StreamYard, of course, I use vMix as my, you've got your studio set up there, but I'm using green screen, obviously.
Right.
And so I start vMix, I hit external, then I start everything, and I schedule my podcast each day and make it private. Then I do it, and it's live to me, but nobody else can see it. Then after it's through, I go in and I go to YouTube, and I just make it live. Then I go back to my past broadcast, bring it up in StreamYard, click download, and it opens up download either the video or the audio only. I download the audio, and then I send it straight through to StreamCloud. Yeah.
Okay.
And so it's available because I sent Art the link for the StreamCloud, and I have it on a playlist there. So,
Cool.
But yeah, I'm doing it as both podcast and takes an extra 10 minutes to put the audio up, but it's worth it. But yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, but what year did Rush come on in your city, Lloyd?
I'm trying to think. It had to be, God, just right when he started, and I must have picked him up. I must like you. I listened to it for a week or two, and I thought, what is this? This guy is a jerk. I mean, I couldn't stand him. And then I caught one of his shows one day where he said, give me a couple of weeks.
Right.
All right, I'll give him a couple of weeks. And sure enough, I was dying laughing. And anytime the kids get into my car now, they know that it's going to be on AM radio listening to Rush Limbaugh or Sean Hannity. But, nobody's going to come up to a measure to beat Rush. I mean, I like Sean Hannity, but my problem is with Sean Hannity, he's a lot like me. He asks a question, then continues to answer it himself and talk over all of his guests.
Hello, Steve Carpenter. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Steve. Yeah, Sean Hannity's favorite guest is Sean Hannity.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Rush
but I
Limbaugh
like
was
what
smart.
he says. He definitely does.
Yeah.
He does a good job on TV
Right.
when he lets a guest talk.
When he lets him talk. Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah.
And that's where Rush was so smart. He didn't have guests because he was his favorite guest too, but he knew enough about himself to know that he could fill up 2 hours of talk,
Right.
Yep.
And
he would even take callers, if you remember. I think he always said the purpose of the caller was to make him look good. And he admitted it outright, and it really was. He only took callers when he knew he had more to go into.
He only did it on Fridays for the longest time. I don't know if he ever took them any other time.
Yeah,
but I only
open
remember
line
he
Friday.
did it all week.
Did he?
But Open Line Friday was definitely more,
I think that
now
was about
what-
any open topic, not
Right.
just what he was discussing. Yeah.
Now, my dad was a big fan of Rush, and one year I got him the Limbaugh letter, and he loved it. And he kept that for a while until, it just got too expensive for him. And I've got one of his books, and I think I gave it to my dad, and my dad, well, I got it now, and I read it, and he is quite a good author.
This was my first Rush Limbaugh book.
Yep.
I think Judy got this for me for Christmas one year, and then for my birthday later on when this one came out,
wow.
my mom got this one for me. So I've got See, I Told You So and The Way Things Ought to Be.
Right.
Two of my favorite books, and I have read them both. They're just not. I thought, do I know where they're at? And I looked over and I could see this one here just peeking over the top of a bunch of junk on my bookshelf over there. So before the show started, I grabbed those. But yeah, two books
That's
I
cool.
highly recommend, even in today's times, you know.
Right.
And you just there's just nobody that's going to be able to replace him. I mean, he had a style, he had a voice, he had a cadence that just was. And to be honest with you, the first time I saw him, I thought, oh my God, that can't be the guy here on the radio every day, you know? And but in our household, we watched his TV show religiously.
Yep.
You know?
We did that as well. Yep.
And I have, you know, Mike, you were talking about you voted for Reagan.
Right.
I voted for
Taft.
Yeah, Taft. No, not quite that far back. Let's see. The first election. I think
Hey,
it was
Ray
Nixon.
Kelly.
No, was it Nixon or was it the one after Nixon, his
Lincoln?
vice president? No, not Lincoln.
Ford.
Oh,
Ford. Thank you. Yeah, I couldn't think.
right.
I can see Ford in my head, but I couldn't.
okay.
I could imagine
no,
him,
it
but I
wasn't
couldn't.
a Chrysler.
Yeah,
Chrysler
no, it
wasn't
wasn't Chrysler. And it was not a Lincoln. It was a Ford.
Right.
Just so you know that. I voted for the only president that was never elected.
Right.
Just my luck.
Well, did you know that Abraham Lincoln grew up in his father's log cabin, and John F. Kennedy spilled log cabin syrup in his father's Lincoln.
And he was shot at Ford's Theater. I think there's a whole thing about that. Isn't
Yeah,
there?
but I think that was a joke. Yes.
Right.
Yes. One of Art's odd sense of humor, which
Right.
we all enjoy and love so much. But yeah, Rush Limbaugh had a lot of influence on me, and he's going. I don't think there's going to be right now. I don't see anybody who can really replace him. Not
Yeah,
the way he does.
nobody's going to replace him. They'll only fill his time slot. That's it.
And that's it.
And
Yeah,
it's all about personality and how well a person carries himself. You know.
Yeah, and his research that he did, I watched one I don't know if it's a documentary on Rush and stuff, but I watched the stuff that he did to get set up for a show. He put in so much research, you know, and you think about it, the man went deaf, and yet he was still one of the best voices in radio. You know, he
Right.
finally had the cochlear implants, which helped him a lot. But he never missed a lick. You know, it's just
Yeah.
it was. It's a
Yeah, that was a tough period for him, though. They really went after him because that was the time when he did the ESPN thing for a short time, and then they kind of set him up, I think, and got him thrown off. Then the pill thing came along.
Oh yeah.
yeah.
And then he lost his hearing not long after,
Right.
which
That
may or
was,
may not have been related to the
Oxycontin.
Oxycontin. Yeah.
Yeah. Not Oxycontin.
But yeah, he
Those were the
struggled with that
callings.
for a while. But remember that he was doing the calls, and somebody would dictate the calls to him visually, and there would be a little delay, and it was awkward. And his voice was changing because he wasn't getting his own feedback.
Right.
And but once that cochlear implant, and he became used to that, his voice really came right back.
Oh
Yep.
yeah. And, doing what I do, and of course what Art does now, I'm one of the few that actually listens. I listen to my own voice, and not
Right.
because I want to hear myself talk, although I'd rather hear me than anybody else, but, that's besides
Yeah, we
the
know that,
point.
Lloyd.
Yeah, you guys know. Yeah, I'm famous for that, but no, but it helps me regulate the way I'm saying things, my intonation. Am I getting too loud? Am I getting too angry?
Right.
Is my volume adjusted properly? That's a big thing. I can compare myself to you two guys and tell if my mic needs to be turned down a little bit. And I can't imagine doing what he did every day of the week like that without being able to hear himself. And I'm hard of hearing, so I have it cranked up over here on my
Right?
speaker. So, yeah, exactly.
Well, thankfully, Rush came into the whole political thing, though, as a radio guy already,
Yeah.
who was used to, when to go to commercial and enunciation and the language and filling time, all that stuff was already perfected. And I'm not really sure what the story was, how he was approached to go into politics versus being a disc jockey. Was Roger Ailes involved in that? I believe.
I'm not sure. He tells the story, and it's been so long since I've read it. But I mean, he's always been a conservative because, his father was and his grandfather was, and I think it just came from that. And I, I need to read the book, I guess, and we can talk about that on
Right.
another on our show on Sunday because, this was Art kind of caught me off guard, so I didn't do a lot of research. Well, of course,
Right.
he just passed away this morning too, so it's not
Right.
like I had time.
You could feel it coming, though. Mark Stein. He was on last week, filling in, and you could kind of tell something was up from his demeanor. And I didn't listen. I listened only a little bit yesterday, and then today, we obviously all found out, and it feels like a loss. I never met him, didn't know him, whatever, but really like a friend. For 30 years now.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
he was a giant in the industry. He was the guy that really got this going. I mean, there were other conservative talk show hosts before him, but they never got the exposure that Rush got. I mean, Rush originally started in Sacramento,
Right.
and it was right then that he got discovered, and they said, "Hey, let's syndicate this on AM stations." I think it started off regionally, and then it just quickly went nationwide, and then everybody knew his name.
I think when he
It's like
started
that
here,
guy that says, in our part of the world, your name is a household word.
Yeah.
Yep.
yeah, he was something. And you know how he kind of feigned arrogance a lot. You know what I mean? Like he calling his jet EIB-1 and all that kind of thing. But I think that was put on, really. Just and because it never rubbed us the wrong way.
Well, he used to say, he broadcasting with tied with half his brain tied behind his back,
Mhm.
and
Right. With
God
talent on
forbid
loan
if he
from
had
God.
talent on loan from God.
No, it's talent on loan from God.
God.
Yeah, and that's it's well we all know it being on YouTube and doing these kind of live shows and stuff. It's a shtick,
Mhm.
Right.
and everybody's got to have a catch. It's a hook and a catch, and
Oh,
he developed one that was really really good.
and he was great at parodies. I mean, his parodies were just awesome. And I got one of the CDs by Paul Shanklin, and boy, I played that at work all the time, and yep.
You'll have
Yeah.
to pull those out, Art, and out of mothballs, and because I haven't heard.
Well, I'd probably get copyright strike
Right.
if I played them on YouTube.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
animal
unfortunately.
rights updates and
yeah.
Right.
coined the term feminazi, I believe.
Feminazis, that's got to be my
yeah.
favorite, you know.
Mhm.
I use it all the time. You know, that's
Right.
yeah, I've used it for years, you know.
Yep.
But I think that was
That's where I learned about what ditto head meant, and yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He,
Yeah.
he,
So
he influenced conservatism and he influenced talk radio. He, like you said, he brought back AM radio from the dead, and everybody that's come behind him is just they're walking in a shadow.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
yeah.
you talked about when I was off there for a couple of weeks, you filling in my shoes and big shoes. No, I felt like I was coming back trying to fill in your shoes, Mike. I agree with what Roach said. You've got one of the best observational analytical minds. I loved listening to you on Arch. I was almost like, you know, I think I'll just keep off for a while. Let Mike take over for a while. You know,
You better come back. Or you lose your job.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
the way it is
Well,
on
that's
radio.
yeah. Well, that's kind of where I was thinking. I think I better start doing art show, or I'm going to be replaced. And it would have been a good replacement. I can tell you that right now.
Thanks.
But
Yeah.
nobody's going to replace Rush. That's the thing. There's just not.
Right. And I don't think anybody should try.
I don't think.
It would be a fail from the beginning.
Yeah, and I don't think there's anybody in this generation, this new generation of broadcasting, this new generation of younger people, that they don't observe the world. The world that they're observing now is not the world that Rush started out in, you know, and they don't have that as a base to build on, you know, because the younger people coming up, you know, in the next 10 years, Rush Limbaugh is going to like, wasn't he that guy that, you know, Grandpa used to listen to or something like that, you know, and they're not going to know who he is. They're not going to have the experience of hearing him live, you know, and or hearing him at least semi-live, you know. I don't know that. I'm sure they recorded at certain times of the day in each station because they were on different times of day throughout the country.
Right.
But
yeah, we had him on a 1 hour delay at first, and it's been live for the last couple decades, you know.
Yeah.
But,
now his impersonations were like spot on. He did a great Bill Clinton.
Yes.
Yeah, Bill Clinton. Oh, but yeah, he did, and you know, and again, there was, you know, the timing. It really is everything, and having Clinton come in. I mean, he had material just handed to him by Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton and the whole administration, and another interesting thing will be, you know, with that void there now, 3 hours of the day, what will happen to the whole medium of talk radio per se, as opposed to now, like Lloyd, you started a podcast, and the new generation coming up, they don't really listen to radio in general as much as we did. You know, even for music, you know, there's playlists on iTunes and this, that, and the other, and buying one song at a time. You know, listening to a DJ in a car is how we grew up. You know, you go under a bridge and it goes out and it come back on the other side, that kind of thing. And nowadays, I'm curious if, you know, all the young Turks coming up seem to be in podcasts. You know, I wonder.
And I think you're right, because all the new cars, pardon me, all the new cars coming out have all that stuff built in.
Yeah.
And they don't even have to turn, you know, in another 10 years, there probably won't be an AM dial on your car radio. You know,
Right.
I just see it as that, and I think podcast and plus, you know, that was the reason I don't have XM and Sirius radio anymore is because I couldn't listen to shows like that because they didn't have at the time they didn't have my local programming on XM radio. So
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to listen to, you know, I missed hearing Rush on when I had XM radio, and I had a car that had it built in, and but you're right. I don't think AM radio. This may be the collapse of AM radio in the near future. You know,
Right.
especially with political correctness the way it is right now, and cancel culture. Yes, I think I said it right. Cancer culture is about the way it is.
Cancer culture too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because he made so much money for others that there was no touching him. But, you know, who else out there is going to bring in that much money for, you know, Westwood One or whatever radio, you know, what is it? The big radio company, Cumulus Radio, that owns so many stations and stuff.
Yeah.
Will the program directors, what decisions will they make? You know, who knows? It's conservative talk certainly won't die out. It's just interesting to see where it will go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's like you said. There's 3 hours they gotta. I mean, they're just now. Howard Clark is just retired, and you know, he's. I don't know if you guys know who Howard Clark is, but he does financial advice, you know, and he has been on our local radio and in the evenings, and now he just retired, and they just now filled his time slot with a new broadcaster. Now they're going to have to. I'm sure that EIB Network will. College of Law. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's just he was a voice for, you know, and he was from the Midwest. He was from Missouri. He was you know, although I never heard you mentioned his radio voice and his diction and stuff and his enunciation. I never heard him use the word wash, you know, like washing your clothes.
Right.
Even though for this part of the country, a lot of us say wash our clothes. We put the R in there, but you never, that's where he was the professional, you know.
Well, it's funny. I actually went to broadcasting school at community college, you know, and we had some guys here locally who were from the New York City area with some pretty heavy New York accents. And one of the first things in radio classes they were told is lose the accent. You know, you have to kind of homogenize your voice to, you know, de-regionalize your voice. So it's just the regular American accent.
When I was going to college, of course, I have a degree in English literature, and it's hard to believe the way I talk. But it's been a lot of years since I've had to use that degree. But anyways, the teacher came in and she says, you know, you can talk, you know, when you're out of class, you can talk Okie all you want, but you will write proper English. You will not write Okie, you know. So, and that was, you know, I talk Okie now. When I first started in college, of course, I just moved here and I came from Arizona, but I'd grown up in Colorado. So I didn't have this hillbilly accent that I've picked up over the last 40 years. 40 years in one place will give you that hillbilly accent. So, you know, especially when everybody around you speaks hillbilly. So,
yeah.
God, I spent a lot of time in Michigan, so I never got the upper Midwest. I think that's more of a Minnesota talk, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of like Mike
we
Lindell.
Didn't have that in Michigan.
You wash your pillow, you know, My Pillow.
Yeah, My Pillow. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
Pillow. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Wow.
remember the first time I heard a guy come in from, I guess he was from Minnesota or someplace up there. He comes in, he wanted some soup, and I said, "Okay, it's right down that aisle." I was working in a convenience store at the time, and I says, "Right down that aisle there," and he says, and he goes down and he says, "I don't see it." I said, "Well, there's like 10 different cans and 10 different varieties, and right there is canned soup. That's what you asked for." He says, "No, to wash with, you know."
Oh,
Oh, you want
Oh.
soap? Where are you from? What country are you
Yeah.
from? He says, "I'm from the United States. I'm from Wisconsin or someplace." I didn't understand him. Yeah.
yeah.
I didn't understand a lot of people in Oklahoma, but that guy threw me for a loop.
Yeah, it's funny how so many of us have like even from state to state, like you know, we call Pepsi or Coke soda here.
Right.
And
Yeah.
in Pennsylvania, where my brother lives, it's pop.
Pop.
And you know, we call it soda pop and all that. So
Yeah.
it's funny how these things go. You
We
know,
tend
but-
to either ask, "Do you want a Coke?" which covers everything, or "Do you want a pop?" And in
Ron
my
says
household,
it's Warsh in Eastern.
yeah.
Eastern PA.
Pennsylvania.
Cool. That's
Well,
just where he lives too. His
And I
daughter
called it,
said pop.
yeah. I've always called it Warsh because that's the way I grew up. I don't know if it was my dad's Arkansas accent or if it was my mother's Colorado accent, but you know. Anyways, we've
All right,
Digress.
so let's
Drifted
get
in,
back to Rush Limbaugh and
Yeah.
how he's influenced the industry, and he had great merchandise. I used to have one of his Club Gitmo T-shirts. You remember those? They were orange, and on the back it said, "My dad went to Iraq, and all I got was this lousy Gitmo T-shirt."
Yeah. He like I said, or like you guys said, he was just, he had comedic timing. His impressions. I actually learned to do my Clinton impression. Don't ask me to do it tonight. I learned to do it listening to Rush Limbaugh do it. And I used to love going to McDonald's drive-thru and order stuff like Bill Clinton. You know, it sounded like Bill. And of course, I always made something that was non-Clinton-esque. You know, in other words, I talk about a bunch of bleeding liberals out there, but I do it in Clinton's voice, which always threw him off. And of course, I only did that when I was ordering for somebody else, not for myself, because I wanted to get my right meal.
Yeah. But also Rush, another legacy, I guess you could say, is that he made us not apologetic for our views. You know, he made, you know,
Absolutely.
he was, you know, where you know, we might have felt unsure in a crowd, and trust me, I'm in New York State. I'm surrounded by a whole bunch of lefties, and
Yeah.
although, you know, not so much where I am, it's half and half kind of here, but you know, not afraid to stand up and you know, disagree respectfully, but you know, with people, and not apologize for conservative, old-fashioned American views. You know, I sound more like my father than my father did. You know, and when you know, we all go through that when we're young. We're a little rebellious, and you finally grow up.
Yeah.
You hope.
Yeah, well, you hope. Yeah. He also taught us how to defend our conservative points of view.
Yes,
I mean, he was.
that's right.
That is probably the best gift that he gave to us as conservatives, was to teach us how to properly defend. Because I'm sorry, you can't argue with stupid, but you can defend it properly. And I think he did. He was one of the best at being able to present a conservative argument, and also taught you when that was a moot point with some people. It wouldn't matter how well you present it, and he taught us all how to present it well. But no matter how well you present it, it wasn't going to affect certain people. Some people just have that mentality that you can't change. You know.
And
Right.
that's what scared a lot of liberals, because liberals, they really thought they own the media. We could do no wrong. We could really steer the minds full of mush, and then comes along Rush Limbaugh, who just kind of threw him for the loop. And because they can't refute anything he says, so they call him a bigot, a racist, sexist, homophobe. And you know what? And he throws it back at him. You know, like with the term feminazi. And
Commie-lib.
yeah,
Chi-com.
and these young skulls full of mush.
Right.
Oh, that was another favorite of mine.
Yeah.
I have
Which really
grandkids
was
like that.
just his way of saying kids, you
Yeah.
know. You know, he always said, pointing out absurdity by being absurd. Wasn't that another thing that he would do, which he would do with the bits, the comedy bits? Because if it wasn't entertaining, you wouldn't listen. So he had to be absurd, but that's what good comedy does. You point out absurdity with absurdity, and but he did it, you know, also with a lot of intelligence, and you know, like you said, Art, you confront a lefty with a well thought out argument, or just pointing out the ridiculousness of what they're saying, and they kind of get that deer in the headlights, you know, look to them.
Yeah, they really
call
do.
you names.
That's usually their only recourse is to call you names, you know, because they can't use logic to argue with you, because most of their positions are illogical, and that's what he taught, was how to deal with the illogic of their thoughts. And it's just going to be a really and you know, the sad thing is, we lost him at the time we probably need him the most.
Yeah.
You know, and I know that bothered him. I think you know, you could hear that he was going to stick with it as long as he could, and I think that's what his point was over these last few months, was to try and get us to that point where we, you know, it's time for us to, you know, Daddy died. It's time for us to step up and take our place in the world, and all we can do is as YouTube and or podcast influencers is to do just that, influence along that line, you know.
Yeah.
And what really frosted the liberals was last year when Donald Trump presented him with the Medal of Freedom at his what was the State of the Union speech they gave.
I just saw that clip.
It was topped off with Pelosi tearing up the paper. I'm like, oh man,
what a classless move that was.
Yeah,
it was. Yeah, it was.
And I watched that clip a little while ago of him, and I don't think he knew he was getting it.
No, I don't. He looked really surprised.
Yeah.
And sure enough, you know, the whole place basically stood up. Well, not the whole place, obviously, and Pelosi wouldn't clap or anything. The guy is literally, you know, dying, and you know, she doesn't have the grace to even politely acknowledge his presence, and you know, her attitude speaks for itself, you know.
Yeah.
Well, that's because those people, they really see him as the enemy, as evil. Right. That's why they act the way they act. I mean, this was taught by liberal professors in colleges and universities. And that's where all of this garbage got started. I remember when I was a young adult, and whenever you heard a conservative say something, what was the first thing a liberal would say? Why, that's racist.
Yeah.
And to me, I'm like, oh, what do you mean? And what it did is it devalued that word, racist, bigot, sexist, homophobe. It's just another way of saying doo-doo head. You know?
Yeah. You know, using something so much to where it no longer means anything. You know, that's what they've done. And that was a good thing about Rush. They're like coming up with feminazi. You know, we got tired of hearing about feminist this and feminist that. He came up with feminazis. That made it new and fresh again. You know,
Right.
And yeah, he was
And it
good
just
about
rolls
that.
off the tongue.
It
know?
does. Feminazi
Yeah.
just works. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you notice how quiet they are with all these gender, transgender
Yeah.
men that are now competing with these women in sports and
Yeah,
winning everything. And they're
maybe
just
it's
sitting there.
yeah. I'm wondering where the feminists are at, or is it because they're just the true feminists that started out? They're either old or dead and don't
Right.
care anymore. You know.
Yeah.
And the new ones, well, they've accepted that because they certainly don't want to be seen as racist or
transphobic.
transphobic. Yeah.
Right, because they all have their own little niche of what it is their thing is. And if they start getting mad at each other, it's like a circular firing squad, you know? And
Yeah. Yeah.
so if they complain about the trans people in girls' sports, which I don't know how pervasive that is or not, there appears to be some problem with it. But then they start going after each other, and that's good for entertainment value, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah.
But unfortunately, bad for society. With all the, I mean, who isn't against getting rid of racism? We all are, you know.
Yeah.
But this whole trans and the sports thing, you know, there's no logic there whatsoever, you know. So
Well,
it.
How about these overweight men that want to be women? Are they trans fat?
Oh, you here all week, Art?
Yeah, try the veal. I'll be playing in the Poconos next week.
Right. Try it out on the road first, Art.
Yeah. Actually, that's what he does. He tries it out on my show and then sees how it works, and then yeah. So.
About that one I did on
oh my God,
Greg's
that was
show a couple weeks.
On Greg's show, yeah.
Oh man, I really nailed him good because they weren't expecting it, and Greg's face just turned red.
TDR Drone says Transmania is out of control, to say the least. Isn't Transmania? Isn't that?
Oh yeah, isn't that
like the
wrestle group where trans people get?
No, I think Transmania is the alternate WWE wrestling thing. You know,
yeah,
WrestleMania and Transmania. Yeah, actually, I think
didn't one of
WrestleMania
those
is where
people just come out? I don't think he really had to come out. One of them wrestlers was it's actually a guy, and it's like, well, I could have told you I don't watch wrestling, but as soon as I saw the picture, I'm like, well, no kidding.
Yeah,
you know. So
now that Trump's not in office, they're turning. I don't know. I quit watching it here a while back because it just was, you know. And I watched it. You know, it's entertainment.
It's fun.
It's what it is.
Fun.
You know, it's fun to watch, but I got to the point where it's just like, I think part of the reason I quit watching is when they started doing the women couldn't participate when they went to Saudi Arabia and stuff. I'm thinking, we do not need to be bound down to the Muslims. You know, yeah, they've got good money, but I'm sick of that stuff. So,
Mm-hmm.
That
Yeah.
was my personal choice. So I quit. I unsubscribed from their monthly, or I unsubscribed from their show, their live shows, and all of that.
Mm.
And I just wait for it to come on YouTube.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. But yeah, man, it's it's a huge loss with Rush Limbaugh. Thank God we had that year of saying goodbye, with and him knowing, the way he put it. I think his outlook on life changed, kind of knowing he had an expiration date. I think is the way he would word it sometimes, and knowing it was
Yeah.
coming up, and he was certainly aware that when he signed off before Christmas for the Christmas break, you could hear in his voice almost like, I really hope I make it back in January. And thankfully he did. But
Yeah.
it was coming, and thankfully we all got to really take it in, and get that sense of, well, he's going to be leaving us. And you can say, well, it's just a radio guy, or whatever in our lives, but he's been a friend for 30 years in another sense.
Yep.
And so
Yeah, he was a part of everybody's. Those of us that are conservative and that are fans of his, it's something we listen to every day. There wasn't a time I didn't get in that truck or that car or the van, and I had that radio on and I was listening. I can turn off Hannity. I can turn off. I didn't listen to Herman Cain that much. That's another great one we lost.
Yeah.
To COVID, and it's just. But Rush Limbaugh, like I said, I've been listening to him. I have to stop. I need to look at this book, see when it was produced or when it was printed, because it's don't even remember now. Let's see, when did it come out? Well, this says 1992, so I know I was listening to him long before that.
Yeah.
So I must have been hearing him just probably back in '88, or at least.
Yeah, I think that's when his show
I think
started.
it's when he
was
first
in
started.
88,
88,
out of Sacramento. Yeah.
Yeah. And he would do
he-
those Rush to Excellence tours, which I never saw, but they ended. They just became too big, and his show became too big for that.
Yeah.
How about the Rush bake sale?
Oh, Dan's Bake Sale.
Dan's, yeah.
Oh,
They actually
yeah.
came through Colorado once.
I remember
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Because
that was cool.
I can't remember how it started now. I think this guy was trying to raise some money to pay for getting the Rush Limbaugh letter or whatever that, or get the 24-hour Rush.
Yeah, it was way back. Way
Yeah,
back.
it was.
Yeah, it was.
He was trying to get whatever
Back-
the premium service from RushLimbaugh.com, and I think he decided to have a bake sale, and he came on and talked about it, and somebody else talked about it, and so
Mhm.
it went from there, and they raised a lot of money through Dan's bake sale, and
Right.
became part of the tour for a while. So yeah,
Mhm.
Yeah, but boy,
And
what a
what
legacy.
he did.
How about the Rush Revere books? Those books got kids interested in learning about American history.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
So, he
Yeah, I was just looking
really
through those on
blazed a lot
Amazon.
of trails.
yeah.
And that's great. Teach kids. I mean, now more than ever, kids need history, and unfortunately, it's
Yeah.
being rewritten. And to traditional American history really needs to be taught more than ever, or else we really are going to lose the country.
Yeah. Well, that's how, in a lot of ways, it was through history that I became, learning to love history is how I became a conservative. I had a teacher that was big on American history. Taught us, we learned the Constitution. We learned the we set up mock courts. We had trials. Once I was a prosecutor, once I was being prosecuted and it was a student court, and I had a mouth back then too. But she taught me a love for history, and she also was a conservative. She was a Republican, and so it was an election year, and so we had the whole election thing going back and forth. The other class across the hall, the same grade level as I was, that teacher, we did the court thing together. We did the Constitution thing together. We did the history thing together. But she was supporting the Democrat, and so we supported their political points of view, and learned to campaign, and that's where I became I can say I've been a conservative for many, many years, actually all my life. I've always voted Republican, for my very first election. And that's why the Revere books that he did are so important, because by learning history, by learning American history, you learn what true conservatism is, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah. It's funny, and when I was 18, I turned 18 in 1980, and so I didn't register to vote, so I didn't vote, and I sure enough would have voted for Jimmy Carter, because I was still young and didn't know anything yet. By the time I was 22 or 24, I went in there and pulled it right for Reagan, and it's a pleasure to say I voted for Ronald Reagan. At least I only did it once, but a pleasure to say that, So, and I was against Mondale.
Yeah. It was. I will say I voted for Hillary once. I really did. No, it was during the primaries.
That was in the in
the primaries.
Right.
And in Oklahoma, when I first moved here, there were no Republicans running. We're now a red state, but we were, oh my God, we were so dark blue. It was just unbelievable. There were zero Republicans I could vote for in a primary. So after I moved here, I had to register as a Democrat to vote in any primaries. And when Hillary ran against Obama in the primaries, that was the last time I voted. I've always voted for the presidents as Republicans. I've always voted for Republicans, but I was a registered Democrat only because that was the last year. By then, it had started. It had turned the other way, and we were able to. But I voted for. I thought, okay, I'm going to stay a registered Democrat until after the primary, and then I'm going to go back and re-register go back to being a Republican, because it was just the politics. I've always been a Republican. The first time I registered was as a Republican. I've always voted Republican, but in Oklahoma, and of course the Democrats we had here are more conservative than most Republicans. Well, they're certainly more conservative than Mitt Romney. They're what they call the Blue Dog Democrats. We still got a lot of them around here, and a lot of them switched parties this last time around.
Yeah, I'm definitely frustrated in being in a blue state, dark blue state of New York, and hopefully something will change. You heard about all this stuff with Cuomo lately. He's in a little bit of hot water right now. Hopefully we'll get rid of him somehow. I'm not sure whether people will have spine in the legislature or not. There really is nobody, but maybe in the 2022 election. But we'll see. Cuomo's so entrenched in power in this state, but it's frustrating. People think that everybody in New York State is a flaming liberal, and it's not that way. It's once you get up past New York and Albany, it's really a different world.
We had
All right, guys, we managed to do an hour, and it was a great show.
Yeah.
I think I could speak for all of you guys. We're gonna miss you, Rush, and from the bottom of my heart, God bless you, Rush, and Katherine. God bless you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Everybody have a great evening. Let's remember a great man, a pioneer in radio and conservative talk radio. So, good night, everybody, and have a great evening.
Great.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Art.
Thanks, Art, for putting this on.
Right.
Really appreciate it.
Take care, guys. Good night, everyone.
Yep. See you, Mike.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.